Hello, my name's Ash Nalawala. I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm here to talk about something that I consider to be very important and long overdue. My audience is managers who look after SEO and the C-suite, but I also want SEO team members to watch this video and perhaps show it to their managers. So I want to talk about the Visibility Governance Maturity Model, VGMM, and I'll start by laying out the backdrop. Visibility today is mediated by search engines and AI systems that summarize, extract, and compare information before a click happens. That means your organization's representation is increasingly shaped outside your direct control. Governance is not about controlling algorithms because you can't. It's about ensuring that your content is eligible to be interpreted correctly as you want it. This is the problem that this VGMM exists to address. This talk is not about AI-mediated content in the SERPs or clicks from AI citations. SEO is still important and brings most of the traffic. In most large companies, no one remembers how SEO was brought into the company, how it was introduced to their workflows. You might find that SEO teams are invisible to the C-suite. They struggle for funding. They have no training budgets, no conference budgets, and if a highly skilled SEO team member leaves and their learnings were not captured in some document, there is a loss of continuity, a loss of corporate memory. I cover this in one of my books, book number 5, The C-Suite Blind Spot. I want to highlight that the SEO team is the expert for visibility, meaning, and liftability. Thus, it deserves governance and budget. Before I go any further, I just want to emphasize that VGMM is not a bunch of words. VGMM has a score, and you'll see that on the screen. I have a screenshot of a spreadsheet that I use in one of my workshops. You see a number there, 49.3. It's in a scale of 0 to 100%. There are 5 levels, 5 maturity levels, 1 to 5. This number is derived from governed domains, and each of those domains has its own score. The idea is to convert governance discipline into a single comparable score. This score represents how visibility is governed across the organization. It's not a vanity metric. It's an aggregate derived from these domains such as SEO, content, performance, measurement, AI extractability, change control, and capability. Now, I only use about half of these domains. I'm just mentioning the other ones in case they're applicable to your situation. And I'll show shortly that each of these models is unique and personal or private to the company. So your score is relevant only to yourself. You use it internally to improve your own visibility. The whole point is this is about external visibility and its governance so that the C-suite knows whether that governance is improving, stagnating, or regressing, and why. I want to show that there is a methodology behind this model. By finding questions that suggest the presence or absence of governance, we can show if the C-suite needs to create or improve governance of external visibility. I found these questions by asking Claude AI to go through 4 of my books and pick the ones that can be used for this model. You will find better ones because you know your business better than I do. So please use your questions. That's fine. These questions are private and exclusive to your business. For example, if you make products for visually impaired customers, you will need a lot of questions that cover accessibility. Now, in the workshop, who answers these questions? Preferably managers and the C-suite, not the operators, because the operators have the answers. We're trying to address the problem that the C-suite doesn't know, therefore they don't provide the funding, they don't ask the right questions at the right time, they don't include the SEO team early when it would really make a difference. So what I do with the questions is each answer is assigned a value and a weight. Some of these questions are single points of failure, SPOF. A single SPOF can cap the maturity level, say to a 2, which is just emerging. So you might be fantastic in all your SEO work, but because there is no one that looks after something that's pretty important, it's a governance failure. It's not an SEO failure, and I want to make that very clear. This whole model is about governance. So let's look at some of the questions, and you'll get a better idea in how the scoring is done. Once you've collected all the questions, you group them into hygiene, medium impact, high impact questions. You can decide which high impact questions are also a single point of failure. You can choose how many questions are required to build a fair model, but not too many, otherwise the answers may not be reliable. Once people are confronted with 100 questions, they might throw up their hands. They just want to get out of that workshop. They'll just answer the questions anyway, and you'll get a distorted view. In the workshops, we go through the answers and make some corrections if we think that people may have misunderstood the questions. So in practice, things are a lot better than they seem. So here's some sample questions. A low impact question can be called a hygiene question. Are SEO tactics documented in detail? Documentation is considered to be low priority, often gets ignored. So it has a low value. If you don't have documentation, it's not the end of the world. A medium impact question can be, say, here's a local SEO question. Is name, address, phone consistency monitored across Google Business Profile and similar directories? That's medium in terms of impact. Obviously, if you change your address, you want to make sure that it's reflected in Google Business Profile. Example of a high impact question: is there a clearly accountable owner for SEO decisions. Is there an SEO manager, for example? I've been in companies where there was none. I was the only SEO in the company. And my judgment was trusted. But from a governance viewpoint, someone needs to be accountable, not just the operator when I was an operator, but someone above me needs to be accountable. An SPOF question is someone responsible for robots.txt? Now, the SEO team members can appreciate that if no one's responsible for that, someone could change it by mistake and possibly edit it the wrong way and block entire parts of the website or the entire website. Hence, a question such as that is a SPOF. In the workshop, the participants are in one location, so they can benefit from questions of others before we start the data collection exercise. If it's a global company, then it has to be done by a video conference such as Zoom, but sometimes time differences make that impractical. So I can send questions by email and get replies by email, and then all the questions get collated into a spreadsheet and a final VGMM score is calculated and the maturity level is calculated. So people who attend these workshops tend to be from the major domains that were identified earlier. So they can be SEO, web performance, content, international and local. And in most cases, someone from SEO can also answer questions about international and local. Or if it's a global organization, then people from other countries can answer the international questions. I invite people from engineering, DevOps, and content. I want to repeat that VGMM is not about SEO tactics, tools, rankings. It's not about measuring LLM visibility. It's a governance maturity model that evaluates whether visibility-related decisions are owned, reviewed, and enforced consistently. It measures discipline, not cleverness. This distinction is critical, especially for executives who assume visibility failures are execution mistakes. I covered this mostly in book number 3 and draw attention to it by the C-suite in book number 5. So there's a picture of 2 of my books. They will soon be on the market, if not already, in February and possibly March of this year. Governance answers 3 questions. Who decides? Who is accountable? And how are standards enforced? In a visibility context, this determines whether definitions remain stable, changes are reviewed for impact, and errors are caught before they escape into the public discovery systems. And by that I mean search engines, LLM crawlers. Here's a diagram of how you would set up VGMM from scratch. And because my face is covering up the bottom of the slide, I can send a copy of the deck if you contact me. So here's a diagram of the VGMM, and you will see that it sits above multiple domain-specific maturity models, like the SEO governance maturity model, content governance maturity model, and so on. And at the bottom, you will see that the work is done by the execution and delivery teams. As mentioned earlier, most are in the company, but they can also be third parties like your agency. The organization can be mature in one domain and fragile in another. And I mentioned that a single SPOF can cap your maturity level. So that highlights what areas need immediate attention, and then you'll raise your score. Most visibility losses are not caused by one mistake. I mentioned the SPOF, but that's easily corrected. These problems arise slowly, often invisibly. Definitions have changed. People have forgotten to update templates. They begin to fragment or forgotten. And ownership becomes unclear. No one remembers who was the expert in editing the templates, for example. They've gone. Machines will pick this up fairly quickly. And VGMM exists to make sure that these risks are visible before they are amplified. Here's a diagram of the Web Governance Committee and its operating model. So on the left, you see inputs such as dashboards, audits, incidents, the roadmap. And the outputs are the standards and policies, the decisions that were taken, escalations, and execution. So this is visibility governance in practice, not theory. Here's a diagram of how any work item proceeds. And this happens more or less by routine, so people don't have to remember this in great detail if this is built into your workflow. So that's the critical shift that VGMM requires. You embed this governance inside the workflows. You don't write checklists and get people to go through checklists every time they perform something. It's built into their daily routine. And that is where it becomes powerful. Yes, there are gates, and the gates are not committees. They're just one person who quickly looks at the output, decides whether it has met all the conditions. If it has, then it just proceeds. So the governance gate, as I mentioned, is not a committee. It meets defined quality and risk standards, but if it does not, then it gets fixed. It doesn't silently leak into production, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Now, most work, because it's done properly, flows normally. It's only when there are some high-risk situations, say you're changing your CMS, that's pretty big risk. There are structural changes, and by that I mean the company structure, or at least within the visibility team, if their manager has changed or suddenly they report to a new part of the company, that's an example of a major change. VGMM ensures that things are done properly after that time. It's all documented, and it's not politics. VGMM separates expertise from accountability. The domain experts, such as content specialists, assess the risk. Decision owners such as the director of content approve changes. Governance teams ensure that standards are applied consistently. This avoids the situation where the SEO team is blamed for decisions that they do not control. This is a three-part diagram, and we're going to look at the top of the diagram in this slide. Some conditions automatically raise the risk level. As I mentioned, platform changes, template updates, or high volume publishing periods, when you have to release a new product and it comes with, say, 50 pages that goes into all kinds of details. That's a high risk period. VGMM doesn't assume business as usual. It requires risk assessment and coordination across teams before proceeding. In the middle of the diagram, when the risk exceeds thresholds, VGMM does not stop work indefinitely. It applies temporary controls, additional review layers, frozen templates, limited releases, until stability is restored. This is how mature systems absorb change without failure. The bottom of the diagram now. The objective of VGMM is not speed or perfection, it is stability under change. When governance is mature, visibility compounds instead of resetting after every release, reorg, or vendor change. There is consistency after a change in team members. That is the business value. That's the end of the presentation. Feel free to ask about anything I could not cover in that time frame. Thanks for your attention. You can write to me using a form on the website. You can connect on LinkedIn, and you can look up my books on Amazon. Thank you.